If you watched part 1, you will have learned how to log in and log out of eRSP. So for this video, we are actually going to log in and perform a visit. So if you go to alhha.ersp.biz, you'll go to this screen and click Employee, and we'll log in. Okay, and for this video, I'm going to do it on the computer. I'm going to do another video to document on the phone, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to do them separately. Okay, so if we go to our home page and we look here, I have an assignment. It's 1 o'clock. I'm already late. I have an assignment from 1 to 2. Okay, so if I go to my calendar and I see Monday the 7th, 1 to 2 p.m., and it says unworked. So I can click this assignment. Okay, so visit details. This is going to give me a little bit of information about the patient, the patient name, the address. All of this information, of course, for our real patients will be filled out. Phone, the gender, date of birth, a little map, and you can bring that up in MapQuest, which is neat. Obviously, this is a fake address, but some contacts, allergies, and messages for the loved one. This has to do with the patient's portal for eRSP, but we'll get to that later. Okay, we can also view the current plan of care for this patient. Click here, and it's going to bring up. It'll bring it up in Adobe PDF. Let me bring it here so you can see it. All right, so this is this patient's plan of care. It's obviously very generic as it's a mock patient. So it's got the medications listed, just your general 485 plan of care. The doctor, the PCP's information will be right here. The doctor, and everything that you would need to know about taking care of this patient. Okay, so. You can also view your notes, which you don't have notes yet, but you can view the previous nurse's notes. So if I click on this, it's going to bring up whatever the notes from the last shift, and that will also be in Adobe Acrobat. So this is actually what the assessment's going to look like when it's finished. So this is the last note, and this was performed by, let me scroll down here, 9/7 by John Doe, and it looks like around 1:30. So basically, you can see what happened on the last shift. You can see their assessment. You can see their log, which we'll get in all of this when we go to perform the note. But you'll be able to see all the information from the last visit or the last shift. Okay, so you can see the vitals, and you can see it in more than one place, but you can see the vitals from last shift. You can see the INO, which no INO was inputted for that shift. You can see the ventilator log. You can see what meds we're giving, and the PRN effectiveness of those meds. You can see the seizure log, and you can see the notes. So that's pretty useful. Okay, attachments. Some patients will have attachments with schedules or other information that you'll be able to find for each patient. Okay, and this is where you will actually perform your visit. So the first thing, you go left to right through these tabs. The first thing you want to do is clock in. So I'm going to go ahead and hit clock in, and it's going to bring me right to the assessment. Now this assessment, it's a bunch of drop-down menus, and you will just click on each one and answer each question, and it's a lot of checkoffs. So if this patient had, let's say, he or she had seizures. Now, in each section, there will be on the bottom a comments section where you can add any comments you might have, or you click not applicable. Now, it's important to know that every section has to have a box checked, whether it be not applicable or other or the other appropriate response. If there is not a box checked, then the system will consider the assessment to not be complete and it will not let you submit. So it's important to remember that. And it will tell you, like I did this first section, and I can click update, and it'll tell me that I have 0 unanswered questions in the neurological section. So I'll go down through, and for the sake of time, I'll just run through it, and you'll be able to look through this more closely when you go to do your visit. But I'll highlight important features. So for breath sounds, there are boxes here. Say this patient's wheezing. You would describe where in this section here. Okay, cough, secretions, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to run through this. Oxygen. Now, if this patient's on oxygen, this patient's on a ventilator, one of the things about this assessment is, for the ease of everybody, we've created it so that you don't have to type in A in boxes that are not applicable. However, you do have to check the box if it is applicable, and we expect that the appropriate information will be entered. So we don't want to see a bunch of things getting skipped over on the assessment. Like I said, for the sake of time, I'm just going to run through this. Okay, this is where you'll put the ventilator information, and this will count just like the old note for verifying your ventilator settings. Okay, and you only have to do this once. You can still document in your narrative that you verified the settings, both coming on and leaving your shift. Okay. And you will also receive an email with a PDF form of a blank note, so that you know exactly what's going to be on the assessment, and you'll know what you're going to be looking for. Now, the height and weight have to be entered. This is the last weight at the last doctor's appointment, or if they're weighed in the house, that's fine. That's fine too. But we want the last known height and weight. And you cannot skip this. If you do not input this, it will not let you submit your assessment. So that's important to know. Last BM, the same thing. You have to input the last BM. Okay, and as we update, we'll see if we missed anything. Like I missed a question in respiratory, so let's go back and see what it was that I did not click. And see the BiPAP. So it will let you know how many questions you have unanswered. You can do this assessment at any time during the shift. You don't have to do it right as you come on the shift. It's just the first thing that comes up. You can do your assessment. Obviously, you want to assess your patient, but you can document the assessment at any time during your shift. Okay, and for education, we tried to make this as easy as possible. We know that education can be difficult in long-term care. We ask that you provide education per the plan of care, but if you have any extra comments, please feel free to add those. Okay, now this is the hourly log. Let me update. Okay, so this is the hourly log, and what we'd like to see here is just in the way that we used to have the tables on the paper notes, we'd like to see some of the same thing, just as a quick blurb for any of us to see kind of what's going on with that patient hour by hour. So if I come on at 1 o'clock, we can use preferably military time, but you could say 1 p.m. So the patient is sleeping on the right side, and for those patients who have their heart rate, usually have their heart rate tracked every hour, we ask that this is where you put it. So the patient's heart rate is 99. You can include anything else you want in here, anything that you feel that's prevalent, that's important, oxygenation, oxygen saturation, whatever. But we ask that you at least have these things in here. There's 16 or 17 in here, so it should accommodate any shift that our agency has. And just a quick blurb, and it will be, not only will it be useful for the office to see, but it'll be useful for the other nurses, the nurse coming on. They can take a look. If we can take a look at what happened and have like an hour by hour. How long did the patient sleep? What did the patient do? Where did they go? Et cetera, et cetera. And it can really give you a better idea of what's going on with this patient. Okay, let me answer this one more question, and I will get to the bottom to show you here. Okay, so now these are assessments that were previously done. So this is another way that you can look to see what's been going on with your patient. So at 1:45, John Doe had completed an assessment too. So we can take a look, and obviously this isn't going to be very detailed because it's just for mock purposes, but in real world application, this information will be right. So we can take a look and see that we had some suction because of the rhonchi. We can look down and see that we can just see, okay, a quick blurb. Maybe the patient was sleeping for a couple hours, and then he or she was awake, watching television. They got their AM care, they ate breakfast, etc., etc. They went to the doctor's office. So that's important stuff to know. And this is only the assessment. So the other parts will be in the other corresponding sections of the note, which I will show you as we go along. So anyway, this assessment, like I said, you don't have to complete this assessment, or you don't have to document this assessment, I should say. Right when you come on the shift, you have the entire shift to complete this. And obviously for this part, for this hourly part, you will have to keep going back to it. So, all right, so vitals. So obviously you're taking a set of vitals, at least Q shift for every patient, and if it's indicated more than that, this is where you'll put it. Okay. Okay, and you just put all your vitals here. And you can put whatever's applicable. And then there's a place for comments here. You can put any comments that are important to consider about this set of vitals. etc., etc. So also, so you can click add, and that adds to the vitals. Okay, and then also you can see the last few sets of vitals that have been taken. So you can see at 1:30 by John Doe, this was the patient's vitals. It's a really good way to track what's going on with your patient. Now, your set of vitals for your shift will have this picture of a little wrench right here, and you can click on this wrench to edit the information that you put in. Say, for example, that you didn't actually take the vitals at 1:13. Let's say you forgot to change the time, which, by the way, you can change the time, and you want to change it to 1 o'clock even, because that's really when you took your vitals. And we'd like to see you try to be as accurate as possible. Obviously, it's not critical down to the minute, but we'd like to see as much accuracy as possible. And then you can just click update. So that brings your vitals up and it changed the time. Okay, so now for I&O. Okay, for each occurrence of diapering, we can just describe the size. Okay, and for stools, we'd like to describe the size and describe the stool. So for this large brown loose stool, at 1:15, we click add. Okay, and that's going to have this here. Now this is also going to have the other I&O entries from other nurses on other shifts, at least the last few entries. So you can see, at least on the last shift or the shift, the shift before, what's been going on with your patient. How many voids have they had? How many bowel movements have they had? When was the last bowel movement? How much they've had PO, or how much they've had, how much they've had medications, if they had emesis. So that's really useful as well. And the same thing as the vitals, you can click in here and edit it. Okay, and so for tube feedings that run continuously, we would like to see them entered at one time. So for example, at the end of your shift, if the patient was on, let's say, 30 milliliters an hour for 12 hours, so that's 360 milliliters. So we can write 360 milliliters of Ensure at 30 milliliters an hour times 12 hours. Nope, at 30 milliliters an hour, and that will give us that will just let us know what's going on. We ask that we do that per shift, so that way that's documented in the I&O. Same thing with medications and flush. You document medications and flush per administration. So if you give 4 or 5 medications at one time, you add up the amount of liquid, and then also with the flush. So if we gave 10 milliliters of medication total with a 15 milliliter flush, we can document that in that way as well. Okay, so the I&O for meds with administration or any flushes every time, with each occurrence of diapering every time, and then per shift for continuous feedings. For bolus feedings, you can certainly just document that each time as it happens. Okay, so as we move on to the ventilator, just as before on our notes, we'd like to see the ventilator settings every 2 hours, at least every 2 hours, the ventilator data. So you can input all that data here. For the sake of time, I'm not going to, but if you have any specific questions, you can feel free to send us a message on eRSP. Now all the ventilator settings will be preloaded in here. So if you see any setting that is not right, or the setting has changed, you need to notify the office immediately. And we like I said, we'd like to see that every 2 hours. Now, you'll see the last set of data from the last entry from the last nurse, and it'll tell you the time, the date, and the nurse. Okay, moving on to the MAR. Okay, so this patient has a few meds. It's just a mock patient. Obviously, our patients have many more medications. So for this, we'll give the Zantac. We're going to document that we gave the Zantac. Let's say, hypothetically, we actually gave the meds at 1 o'clock. Now we ask that within an hour of medication administrations, you document those meds. So even though it's 20 after, let's say we gave it at 1 o'clock. Obviously, all this will be a little more spaced out on a longer shift. But let's say we gave it at 1 o'clock. So we gave the Zantac, we gave the aspirin, and we gave the Valium here. So, and if you look at these meds, it'll give you all the information about the meds, including the times. If the times on here are incorrect, if they need to be changed or they were changed, we ask that you send a message to the office via eRSP to myself, Don Howell, immediately, so that we can get that changed and make sure that it's right. Okay, so for this med, you'll also see the last time it was given. So this med was given last night at 10:41 by John Doe. Okay, so we document, we're giving these 3 meds, and we will go ahead and we change the time to 1 o'clock and click add, and this documents that you've given those meds. Okay, and then also down here you'll see all the meds that were given at least the last few shifts. So especially when it comes to PRN meds, and also to help check each other. If you see a med that wasn't given, for example, and you see that it's not documented, you might want to question that. So, and as with the other menus, you can edit your entries for time or whatever, or delete them. Okay. Now, when we give a PRN medication, say we give the PRN Tylenol, right? So we give it, let's say, for example, we give it right now at 1:22 for pain, or for pain. Patient crying and moaning. Okay, so we're going to give the PRN Tylenol. Alright, and it shows here that we've given that. Alright, now we want to go to MAR addendum, and this is where we're going to document the effectiveness of that medication. So we gave Tylenol. We gave 5 milliliters. We gave it for pain. Okay, and we reassessed at 15 minutes later. So we will say, we'll say for the sake of argument, 15 minutes later. And the effectiveness, effective, patient, calm. Okay, we click add that. Now I'll show you what that looks like, and then any time during the course of the visit you can click up here on the right hand side, and it'll say view employee notes, and it will bring up a PDF version of your visit. So let me drag it down here to the screen. So you can actually look at your visit and what you've got going on, and it will show you, there's your vitals, the INOs that we did, the ventilator log, and the meds. Okay, Now see, it says here that you're given the PRN Tylenol. And this page will show you that you gave the Tylenol, that you gave it here, and that this is what time you reassess the patient, and that everything is better or not effective, etc. Okay. All right, so moving on to the TAR, or Treatment Administration Record. So this is going to be all of your non-medication routine treatments that you do. Oral care, bath, change the feeding bag, and you can select whether you've done it, or you observe the family do it, or they decline to have it done. So we're going to go ahead and document those 3 things. There's a place in here for comments. So you can write for bath, patient tolerated well, or patient did not tolerate well, patient or included shampoo and shave for a male patient. So there's you can add those comments wherever you feel it's necessary, and then you can document those. Okay, and then you will be able to see the treatments given by other nurses on previous shifts. Okay, for suction, we ask that for suction, because a lot of our patients that require suction require it multiple times per hour, and to come in here and document every single time you suction, we think would be too much. So for suction, this patient gets Ballard suction. For suction, we ask that you document the number of times per hour. So in this hour, we came in on the shift at 1 o'clock. So for the 1 o'clock hour, for suction, back down here to it, we say suction times 3 times for small amounts of white/green secretions. So you want the amount and to describe the secretions just like you normally would in your narrative. And then we'll document that. Okay, for seizure record, there's actually a lot of options that you can select. So you can go through here and document your seizures. In this first comment section, under type, we ask that you document the duration of the seizure. Okay, and then there are a couple places for comments, including the recovery. You can document the recovery time if you like. Okay, and then you click add. Now you'll be able to see the seizure log, and of course you can edit this, but you'll be able to see the seizure log from other shifts and other patients as well, just like any other part of it. Okay, for the notes, we ask, of course, that you continue to write your narrative at least every 2 hours, but we encourage as much documentation as you like, and so of course you'll do that, and then you can see the documentation, at least a few of the notes from the last shift or the last couple of shifts. So that's pretty useful here. Okay, so you'll just type your note here, and I believe that you can write, I don't believe there's a character limit. I believe you can write just as much as you want. And of course, like with all of these, you can manipulate the time. So if it's you got busy and you're documenting behind, so say it's 3 o'clock and you're documenting your entry for 1 o'clock, you can do that with anything in this system. You don't have to document right as it happens. Of course, it does log what time you actually do document it. So we ask, of course, that you don't document it ahead, which that's nursing 101. So, okay, so we move on to the signature. Now, from part 1 of the video, you posted your signature. You should have posted your signature in the employee homepage. So your signature, and let's see if the signature is still on here for this page. You can click View Notes, and your signature that you posted on the employee homepage will show up right here. We've deleted the one on the test nurses homepage, but the signature that you did put in will show up right here on your documentation. Okay, so this is the spot where we will post the patient or guardian signature. Okay, so in the computer they'll use a mouse, but on the phone they can use a finger or what have you. And we ask that you write their name. So this is Tess, the mother of our test patient. We'll click Save. Okay, at this point, we'll continue documenting everything that's necessary in our shift. We'll document all our meds. We'll document our treatments, our seizures, ventilator data, and notes. And then at the end of the shift, you clock out. You just click Clock Out. Now, a couple important things you need to know about clocking in and out. Clocking in and out, they round by quarter hour. So if my shift is 7 to 7 and I show up at 7 o'clock, I have from 7 o'clock until 7:07 because of rounding to clock in. Anything after 7:07 is going to round up and clock you in at 7:15. So it's important to remember to clock in as soon as you come in. If something happens and you can't clock in or you don't clock in, it's not a big deal. We ask that you try to handle it. But if something like that happens, you just go ahead and send us a message in eRSP, and we'll with the date, the time, your actual arrival or clock in time, and we'll get that fixed for you. But we try to ask you to, we'd ask you to try to be as self-sufficient as possible with that. So when you clock out, keep in mind that it's going to round also. So if you clock out more than 7 minutes early, you're going to be docked 15 minutes. If you clock out more than 7 minutes late, then it's going to give you an extra 15 minutes. So we want to try to clock in and out on time, if possible. And you have a 14-minute window in either direction to clock in. So that shouldn't be too hard. So we clock out. Okay. Now it's going to tell you claim submitted, and that's going to submit the note to us at the office, and it'll give you your clock in time, your clock out time. Okay. And so if you return, we can go back to this patient. I want to show you a couple more things about this patient. Let's see here. Oh, all right, we're back to my calendar. Now you see this shift here was it was unworked, and now it's showing that it's submitted. And so the note will be submitted to the office, and it'll be looked over, and if it's approved, you'll receive a message that says that the claim was approved, and everything will be good. Now all of your all of your shifts that you've worked previously should be on this view. So if you worked last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it's not on here, then it's a good idea to go ahead and send a message so that we can make sure that everything's right. Okay, and that will conclude this video. Thank you for watching, and as always, if you have any questions, you can feel free to send us a message in eRSP. We'll be back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.